you my mother after today." The gypsy's eyes filled with tears, and she said with a trembling voice, "I will tell you the name of your father, but on one condition, that you smear his face with blackness, and that you slap him 7 times." The boy was astonished and asked her, "And why is that?" His mother told him the story in full, how the prince left her in the middle of the marriage to humiliate her, and how he returned to his palace boasting of his deed. She told him how she faced him in disguise, until she seduced him and became pregnant from him, and she did all that to undermine his pride. The boy trembled from the horror of what he heard and said, "Forgive me, my mother. I thought ill of you because of that woman's words. I promise you that your words will not go in vain. I will not strike him 7 times only, but 14 slaps, 7 for you and 7 for me." Then he went out determined to execute his promise. With the passing of years, the prince had assumed power after the death of his father and became king over the land. When the boy reached the city, he learned that his father had become the king, but he did not retreat. Rather, he increased in determination. He rented a small place with an old woman who sells flowers. At first, she was about to expel him, but he gave her a piece of gold, so she changed her stance and permitted him to stay overnight. At night, the boy went out hanging flyers in all the streets of the city in which was written, "In the city of cunning, the cunning and half-fox of the city has reached you. He deceives and is not deceived." His phrase carried a clear meaning to the people of the city. The cunning was a title given to a person who excels at deception and planning. The fox of the city was for whoever surpassed him in shrewdness and resourcefulness. By that, he was declaring openly that he was the smartest in the whole city and that no one would be able to catch him. Those news reached the king, so his pride ignited, and he said challengingly, "Whoever captures this deceptive mastermind, I grant him a great prize." The call spread in the city like wildfire. The men of the Mina tribe took upon themselves the task of capturing that cunning gypsy youth known as the fox of the city. The Mina tribe was anciently considered among the brave and warring tribes of great might, so its men went to the king, saying with confidence, "My lord, we will capture the fox of the city and lead him to you shackled." The king was pleased with their boldness and encouraged them to perform their mission. On the other side, the fox of the city was sitting in the old woman's house asking her, "Oh, my mother, what is this noise that fills the city today?" She said while sighing, "Oh, my son, a personality called the Fox of the City appeared in the city, and the Mina tribe has all gone out looking for him night and day." The Fox of the City smiled and said with a calm voice, "So, that is how it is." With the arrival of night, the Mina men went out for guarding. As for the Fox of the City, he wore the dress of an astrologer and went to the houses of the Mina and gathered their women and said to them warningly, "On this night, highwaymen will come to your houses, and they will be semi-naked, wearing only short clothes and their heads shaved. So if one of them knocks on the door claiming he is your husband, pelt him with stones and do not let him enter." They were deceived by his words and prepared as he ordered. Then the Fox of the City went on and changed his appearance. He wore the dress of a barber and sat near a small river and began waiting. The Mina men passed by him and asked him, "Who are you? And what are you doing here?" He said with feigned dignity, "I am the barber whom the Fox of the City is waiting for he promised me that he would shave his beard tonight." The men's faces cheered, and they said, "We will hide here and capture him." He answered them cunningly, "No, he will know you from your appearance. Let me shave your heads, then go down into the water so that only your bald heads appear. He will not distinguish you then." They agreed, so he shaved all their heads. When they went down into the water as he requested, he took all their clothes and fled. The Mina men waited half the night, then they realized they were deceived. They came out of the water shivering and did not find their clothes, so they were forced to return to their houses in their underwear. As soon as they approached their houses, their women showered them with stones exactly as the fake astrologer recommended. The men shouted, "We are your husbands! We are the men of Mina!" But the women did not believe them until the rising of dawn, when the light appeared and revealed the deception. When the news reached the king, he was vexed and laughed at the same time and said, Truly, this youth has a wondrous shrewdness. Whoever captures him, I will double the prize for him." Then the leader of the army, nicknamed the Black Crow, came forward and said with all confidence, "My lord, give me the opportunity. I will capture him before the end of the night." The fox of the city returned to ask the old woman, "Who is pursuing me today?" She said, "The Black Crow himself, and he has gone out on a patrol at night searching for you." With the setting of the sun, the Black Crow went out roaming the streets. As for the fox of the city, he disguised himself this time in the form of an old woman in torn clothes and sat at the city square grinding grain slowly, feigning fatigue and old age. When the Black Crow saw him, he said, "Oh, old woman, what are you doing here at this late time?" He replied with a trembling voice, "The fox of the city came to me a little while ago and gave me barley to grind as food for his horse." The Black Crow's face cheered, and he said, "Then he is near. Move away and let me grind the grains in your place, for I do not want him to escape from me." He took the clothes of the old woman, which were in truth the clothes of the fox of the city, and began grinding the grains with diligence and hard work, while the cunning youth fled with his clothes, leaving him working in the dark. The Black Crow remained grinding grains all night until the dawn broke, and he discovered he was a victim of another trick. With the breaking of dawn, people began flocking to the square one after another, and they were surprised by the Black Crow sitting in the middle of the city grinding fodder like a cow on the road. Then their laughter rose, and they began shaking their heads, saying sarcastically, "What has happened to this Black Crow today? Has he gone mad so that he sits among the people grinding fodder in this manner?" When the crow noticed their sarcastic laughs and mockery, he threw what was in his hand and knelt holding his head with heartbreak and rage, saying, "Curse him! The fox of the city was disguised in the dress of the old woman, and he has deceived me as he deceived others." When the news reached the king, anger took hold of him, and he could not suppress his rage, for that gypsy youth had made his life and the lives of his state's men an unbearable hell. For when the Mina men tried to capture him, he turned their trick against them, shaved their heads, and made their women pelt them with stones. And when the Black Crow tried to capture him, he made him spend the whole night grinding fodder until he became a laughingstock among the people. With the multiplication of the youth's tricks and machinations, fear of him crept into all corners of the city, and people retreated from trying to capture him. They were certain that everyone who sought to seize him would fall into his snares and become a victim of his shrewdness himself. Even the king's chest became tight because of him, so he called out to the people, saying, "Whoever captures the fox of the city, I grant him half the kingdom." Then the first minister, nicknamed the Desert Wolf, came forward. He had fought dozens of invasions, and the fame of his shrewdness had spread in neighboring kingdoms. Then he bowed slightly and said to the king with a steady voice, "Leave the matter to me, my lord. I will capture him. This youth has never faced me before, and I will show him the extent of my strength and shrewdness. If he is the fox of the city, then I am the Desert Wolf." The king blessed him and nodded his head in agreement, while a faint murmur spread through the hall among the guards and advisors. Everyone knew that the departure of the Desert Wolf meant that something big was about to happen. As for the fox of the city, he went, as was his habit, to the old woman and asked her with cunning, "Tell me, my mother, who is pursuing the fox of the city this time?" She answered him, whispering, "My son, the Desert Wolf is the one who decided to capture you now." He said ploddingly, "And who is in the family of this wolf?" She said, "He has no one but his wife and his daughter. And that poor girl, 12 years have passed since her marriage, and her husband has not returned to take her since then." The cunning youth smiled as the threads of his plan began to form in his mind. He disguised himself in the form of an astrologer and circled around the Desert Wolf's house, calling out, "Whoever wants to know the fate of the absent, let him come to me." With the repetition of his passing, the Desert Wolf came out and summoned him, complaining to him about the state of his daughter. He said, "O astrologer, 12 years have passed since my daughter's marriage, and her husband has not returned until now." The fox of the city answered, pretending to meditate. "O sir, your luck is approaching, and your stars herald near good." The desert wolf wondered and said, "And how is that? Explain your saying to me." The fake astrologer said with a voice filled with confidence, "The husband of your daughter has become a great merchant, and he will return to your house tonight." The desert wolf rejoiced with great joy and gave the astrologer a precious gift. He remained all night anxious, waiting for the arrival of his daughter's husband who had been absent for 14 years. With the fall of darkness, the fox of the city wore the form of a merchant and circled around the house of the desert wolf, saying with a broken voice and heartbreak, "Where is my wife's house? The absence has been so long that I forgot the way." As soon as the desert wolf heard him, he went out quickly, saying, "Come, my son, we have waited for you for long years." He entered him into his house and honored his stay most generously. Then he prepared a room for him on the upper floor to sleep in. After he was reassured that his daughter's husband had returned, the desert wolf went out himself searching for the fox of the city, not knowing that the youth he was honoring in his house was the same opponent he was seeking to trap. At midnight, the gypsy youth, the fox of the city, ascended to the upper room where the desert wolf's daughter was sleeping. He woke her threatening with a knife and said with a low, stern voice, "If you utter one letter, I will kill you." Then he forced her to take off half her jewelry, and after that, he tied her hands to the bed, stuffed a piece of cloth into her mouth, and whispered to her with a sarcastic tone, "Tell your father why he searches for the fox of the city outside, while he has entered upon him in his house in the capacity of his daughter's husband." After he collected what he found of money and gold, he fled under the cover of darkness. In the morning, the matter was uncovered, so the desert wolf slapped his head in regret and scandal. When the news reached the king, his patience ran out, and he shouted, "You are all incapable. There is no use in you." So he decided that he himself would take charge of capturing the fox of the city. As for the gypsy youth, he gave the old woman a large part of what he plundered. Then he asked her with habitual malice, "Tell me, O mother, who has gone out this time to capture the fox of the city?" She answered him, while shaking her head in despair, "My son, you have made the whole city lose its mind, and this time the king himself has gone out to capture you." The youth smiled a confident smile and said, "Here has come the day I have waited for long." Night fell, so the king ordered the closing of the city's 4 gates. Then he stood at the last gate holding a machine of wood designated for tying criminals, determined to capture the youth if he tried to flee. As for the fox of the city, he disguised himself this time in the form of a girl of extreme beauty carrying a plate for worship, walking with heavy steps inside the city. When she passed by the side of the king, he stopped her wondering, "Who are you? And where are you going at this late time?" She answered him with steadiness, "I am the daughter of the desert wolf, my lord." The king said, "And what brought you out in this darkness?" She lowered her head with feigned shyness and said, "My lord, you know that the fox of the city came to our house yesterday, plundered the money and assaulted my honor, and for this, I am going to a temple to purify myself." So he let her pass without doubt. After a while, the fake girl returned and stood by his side, and pointed to the wooden machine, saying, "What is this, my lord?" The king said astonished, "This is a machine designated for criminals. We put them inside it and lock its latch on them. And tonight, I will imprison the fox of the city inside it." The girl feigned surprise and said simply, "Oh, my lord, I have not seen such a thing in my life. Would you permit me to see how the criminal is imprisoned in it?" The king laughed and said, "How could I put you in it? You might get hurt. I will enter it myself to show you the way." The king put his hands and feet in the holes. As soon as he did, the fox of the city, while he was still in the form of the girl, hurried and locked firmly and placed the lock on it. The king shouted in terror, "What are you doing, my daughter? Open the door immediately." The youth said while revealing his true voice, "I am not your daughter. I am your son,
The fox of the city.
The king froze from the shock, so the youth approached him and took from his pocket black mud and began to wipe the king's face with it. Then he grabbed a sandal and fell upon him beating while saying, "These 7 are for my mother, and these other 7 are for me." After he left him in a state that is pitiful to mention, he fled in the darkness. In the morning, people found the king tied in the machine, so they untied him with difficulty, and he appeared in a form that is shameful to mention. Then the king realized finally that no one on the face of the earth could capture the fox of the city. The king had admired the gypsy youth, the fox of the city, extremely. However, one matter remained bothering him and raising doubt in himself. He began thinking in wonder, how did this boy, about whom I know nothing, dare to say while he was beating me with the sandal, 7 for my mother and 7 for me? That phrase was not one to be issued except by a person linked to him by a hidden relationship. On the next day, the king issued an announcement in all parts of the city of full pardon for the fox of the city, requesting him to attend the council of judgment without fear. The king had realized the youth's wondrous intelligence and wanted to honor him instead of punishing him. As soon as the youth heard this announcement, he headed to the palace directly and said before the guards with confidence, "My lord, I am the fox of the city." The king was surprised upon seeing him, as he did not expect him to appear with this simplicity and courage. He remained looking at him long, contemplating his features. Then he asked him with a voice dominated by astonishment, "Tell me, what prompted you to do what you did? And why did you beat me in that humiliating way?" The youth told the king his story from its beginning, how he left his mother before the completion of the marriage rituals, how she lived in disguise, and how she became pregnant from him while he did not know. When he finished his narration, the king said while staring at him, "But I left your mother before the completion of the wedding ceremonies, so how did you become my son?" Then the youth answered with steadiness, "My lord, when you feigned fainting during the rituals, my mother was conscious and alert, so she took your dagger that fell from you. After your departure, she completed what remained of the rituals while she was carrying your dagger and considered it proof of the completion of the marriage. As for my birth, this ring tells the story." Then he presented the ring to the king, and as soon as he looked at it, the truth manifested before him. It was the same ring that he gave to the gypsy milk seller on that distant day. So the king ordered the bringing of the gypsy woman to the palace with her son. When she attended, he apologized to her for what happened from him in the past, and declared before his council that the fox of the city was his legitimate son. He made him the crown prince after him, and took the gypsy woman as an official wife announced before all people. Thus the gypsy woman fulfilled her old oath, and lived with her son and the king a quiet life full of affection and respect. After their story was prepared to become a tragedy, it turned by the youth's shrewdness into a happy ending.